I was there to flirt with Haley Charters, a new temp from accounting that had flown in from Seattle only a few weeks back, and she didn't even show. I mean, to be honest, the moment that I realized that, I felt like trying to find a fire escape and leave. You know, the entire thing just struck me as unusually dull and dry. Only about 13 people were in attendance, probably all here to snatch a few free finger foods before attending a real Christmas party with real friends. Even the music in the room was slow and boring, as though whoever had created the event was just trying to throw something at the last minute. Given the way management handles all other debacles around here, I wasn't going to try to put it past them to have screwed this one up too. Still, I felt rude to just duck and run, especially since a few coworkers had already spotted me and made small talk. I figured the least I could do would be to stick around for their gift exchange and then make an exit while they all opened up presents. This year's theme was apparently Secret Santa, and just in case you aren't familiar with the concept, I'll explain how it works. First, there's a sign-up sheet where people put their names down to say that they're interested in giving someone else a present. The key here is that the other party doesn't know who the gift is coming from until they receive it. And then, the same process occurs over and over until everyone gets a random present assigned to them. The gimmick was probably designed with more commercialism in mind, but the sentiment of trying to bond with people that are basically strangers, I mean, it's a good one, I guess. Not that anyone here would ever really try to do that. I could tell from the non-interested, bland expressions of all my coworkers that the only thing that they were thinking about was how long they had to be stuck here. Bill, a manager from marketing, used a fork against a wine glass to get everyone's attention as I eyed the buffet. Even the food they served was cheap, an example of how little the higher-ups thought of us here during the holidays. He asked to get everyone's attention, and I set my plate down, realizing he was probably going to give a very long, very boring speech about how great we all were and such, and I didn't want to look like I was stuffing my face through it, even though I wish I was. Then he began to rant about all the amazing growth our company's had despite setbacks, including new employees and new branches opening, stuff that honestly none of us cared about. It felt like it was going to last forever, but thankfully an older woman from research spoke up and complained that she had to get home to her kids, so he wrapped up the speech rather quickly. I have no idea if it was true or not, but I was certainly thankful that she had pulled that one out of her hat, so to speak. Bill quickly sat down, and the organizer of the event, a middle-aged woman named Dorothy, told everyone that it was time to exchange gifts. I hadn't really paid much attention to the stack of presents across the room, but now that she had told all of us to, I realized it actually seemed like there was quite a few large wrapped items there. Couldn't even imagine actually spending a lot of money on any of these people, and besides, I was sure that the rules had specified not to spend over $10 in order to make the gifts around the same equal value. Someone hadn't been listening. I speculated for a moment whether that meant that two of the people in the room were having a scandalous affair, even as the gifts began to be opened. Then, as everyone finished getting their items, I noticed that there was one small box still left on the table. Someone must not have shown up, I realized. I reached for it, pretending that I belonged there too, and then shuffled back to the edge of the room, slowly unwrapping the bow. Now, I had to admit that even though I thought the whole thing was silly, I was impressed with how whoever had been the Secret Santa had gone through all the trouble of the presentation. As I took the top off, though, I felt like I was a balloon having the air squeezed out of me. There was only a small, monogrammed letter inside. To Philip, from your Secret Santa. Now, Philip worked over in shipping and receiving, and as I opened the letter, I wondered if maybe all he had gotten was a dinky gift card to some secondhand shop. Instead, I was surprised to see that it was a handwritten note. What it had to say made me feel uncomfortable. Better watch out, it read. You've been placed on the naughty list this year. What did that mean? I paused and I looked up towards the others in the room, realizing the others also had strange notes. Everyone looked at one another in confusion. I heard a few people muttering under their breath something was wrong as the last person started to open their package. Next thing I knew, I was on the floor. What happened must have been an explosion of some kind. I remember seeing a flash come out of the box and this loud boom that rocked the entire room. Everyone flew back, and I felt my body hit the wall as the shaking stopped and the fire alarms doused the unexpected blaze. The entire floor was chaotic. My ears wouldn't stop ringing as I tried to get a sense of what had happened. There were sparks flying and shooting from broken fluorescent lights and debris from the party and office equipment strewn about everywhere. Smoke kept me from seeing who else had made it through the bomb unscathed, but amidst the clatter of noise, I heard a scream. As the room became easier to see, I realized the reason for their shrieks was because of what had happened to the unfortunate soul that opened the last gift. All that remained of their body was a scorched heap of tissue and bones. In fact, as I stood there, I realized part of their entrails had scattered onto me. Immediately, I rushed towards the exit. Another coworker ran for the fire alarm, but it didn't do any good. The system was shut off and the door was jammed. I tried the elevator next, only to stop as I heard blaring static over the old intercom system. All of us stopped what we were doing as strange, sinister, and jolly laughter filled the air.
Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas,
the voice said. I felt my stomach drop as I realized the elevator wasn't working, and I was realizing what was happening. We were trapped here.
Gather round, children, so Santa can tell you what the holidays have in store for you,
the disturbing, disjointed voice ordered. Reluctantly, I joined the others in a small crowd as we stood at the edge of the fire that was slowly dying near the center of the room.
Now, have you been good boys and girls?
The voice cackled.
I think by the end of the night, we'll know who's been naughty and who's been nice,
it added. Then a projector screen slid down from the front of the boardroom, showing an image of the now deceased man that had been destroyed.
This man slept with several co-workers that weren't his wife. How very naughty. He'll get nothing but coal this year,
the captor announced.
Santa's been watching you all year round. I made a list, and I checked it twice. I know who here's been naughty, and who here's been nice. Tonight, I expect all of you to get drunk on eggnog and accept your fate.
The timer replaced the man's image. As it began to count down, the strange voice explained,
Our next carol will begin in exactly 15 minutes. Happy holidays, everyone.
As the static ended, all of us looked at each other, trying to comprehend what had just happened. One woman insisted that she was a good person. She didn't belong here. Others were saying the same. Bill was trying his best to be the voice of reason, telling everyone to calm down. Several others were trying to call the police, but no one had reception. Even the internet had abruptly shut down. We were effectively trapped. Maybe there's a way to escape, I thought as I looked towards the air vents. I made the suggestion, and several other guys helped me to push the large desk over towards the vent. Then I surveyed the group. I tried to figure out who might be small enough to crawl through. Pointing towards a petite woman, I told her that she would have to be the lucky one. She timidly looked at the hole as one of the maintenance men began to unscrew the metallic cover. All of us huddled together to help her climb in. It was a bit of a mess to get her up, but finally she managed to squeeze into the tight hole. All of us stood anxiously in the middle of the room, waiting to see what would happen. No one dared to make a peep as the woman struggled to push her body through the tight space. Then, just as she crossed from the office we were trapped in, we heard this cry of pain. And the lights flickered. There was an ominous buzzing from the air vent, and we heard a thud, and all of us got silent. We waited another moment to see if she was all right, but there was no response. Instead, our demented captor came back on the intercom with another jolly and sinister message for all of us.
It looks like someone was getting greedy and trying to sneak out of the North Pole. Let's not try that again, shall we? You're all good little children. Santa will bring you lots of toys.
As the static died again, I looked towards the vent and saw bodily fluids drip towards the carpet, making me want to puke. So much for a chance to get out that way, I thought sourly, as we all reconvened in the middle of the debris. It was easy to say the carefree and lackadaisical attitude which had permeated the room was now replaced with feelings of apprehension and uncertainty. Then one of the employees that worked directly on this floor made the comment that maybe the saboteur was right here among us. I could see that everyone was looking at one another suspiciously. I tried to get everyone to settle down before accusations began to fly, and immediately it was discovered that the petite woman that had crawled into the vent might have been sleeping with the first man that died. Of course, I knew that there was really no way to verify any of this, but I did quickly point out that I wasn't supposed to be here. Maybe we should stop pointing fingers at each other and instead focus on trying to find a way out of here, I told them. Bill and a few other managers were looking towards the long glass pane windows that lined the south edge of the floor. During the impact of the bomb, several of the thick windows had cracked, but surprisingly, none of them had broken. Bill made the suggestion that we might be able to cascade down the side of the building if we had the proper equipment. It was safe to say that no one thought that was a good idea, but we changed our tune 10 minutes later when we heard from our mysterious Secret Santa again. This time, the sound system played grainy old Christmas music, the kind that easily gets stuck in your head. Next, you saw a slideshow of the woman that had died in the air vent. As if to remind us of her unfortunate passing, the air conditioning activated, and we could smell her newly rotting corpse. I felt the need to throw up again, even as the dangerous psychopath holding us hostage made an announcement.
It's time to find out who gets to go home early for being such a good sport. Will the following caroling coworkers please step forward?
It listed off 4 names, including Mr. Bill, and they were told to stand by the elevator and wait for more instructions. I told them I suspected it was a trap, but they were so eager to get out that no one was listening to me. All of us watched as the foursome got to the elevators and the doors magically opened. Then a few of the others still stuck here began to object and push for the door. Immediately, a loud blaring alarm went off, and Evil Santa warned us to stand back. Only going to the North Pole for good boys and good girls. Any naughty children will still be punished, it said. I managed to scramble to the front and hold back 2 of the men as I shouted to Bill to hurry and get on the elevator. One of the women tossed her phone and shouted, "As soon as you get out, call for help." And then the group left as the elevators closed. And we watched the digital numbers descend to the ground floor. The rest of us were on edge for the next good 10 minutes. The men I had stopped from shoving their way into the elevator regarded me with extra suspicion. Easy to assume that I must have played a role in this insanity since no harm had come to me. Me and another young man were trying to remind everyone all we had to do was wait. I mean, surely Bill and the others would be able to find help, and then we'd be out of here in no time. After about half an hour, that sense of reassurance began to dwindle, especially because one of the women checked the elevator and made a startling report. It had never made it to the ground floor, meaning our coworkers that had attempted to leave were now trapped somewhere in a confined space. Almost as if on cue, once she had made the revolution, more jolly music came over the speakers and our mysterious kidnapper had a new announcement to share.
The holidays are always full of surprises, aren't they? One day you think you're on cloud 9, and the next, you might be in the gutter.
The projection screen came on, and immediately a grainy image of the foursome that had left came into view. They were stuck like we had assumed, bickering, trying to avoid losing their hope as they waited in the elevator somewhere below.
Our group of would-be Santa helpers have actually been stealing from the company for over the past 6 months. How shameful. I'm sure you would all agree that only those good elves get to help with toys in the workshop, so they won't be home for the holidays.
I watched in abject horror at what happened next. The roof of the elevator opened, and little sprinklers came out of hidden alcoves, a built trap by our maniacal captor, and spewing out of those spouts is what looked like acid. Even though there was no sound on the video feed, I knew what sort of pain these people were enduring. They slammed their fists against the walls. They tried to crawl to the roof for help. The acid was burning their skin, hitting their eyes, making their bodies writhe with pain. I held a hand over my mouth. I tried to avoid screaming to myself as I watched the awful display. And the feed went black, and the Secret Santa made the next proclamation.
No holiday would be complete without a sleigh ride. So, stay tuned to see who gets to go for a magical journey with Santa.
As soon as the awful display came to an end, I got to work on Bill's plan to scale down the side of the building. I wasn't about to wait and see if I was next on the chopping block for this madness. Grabbing an office chair, I slammed it against the thick windows, trying to break it apart, but it did no good. A woman helped me, and we shoved the desk towards the edge, pushing together to shove it through one of the larger cracks. This time, the combined weight caused the window to give way, and we tumbled onto the carpeted floor as the equipment flew to the ground below. I stared down at the busy metropolitan streets, realizing that none of the people below probably even had a clue about what was happening up here. I silently wondered if they would even care, or if they would simply go about their business. But that was the cynical part of my brain kicking in as I turned back to the crowd and gave orders to tie together Ethernet cables for rope. We gathered as many bundles as we could, binding them back and forth tightly against one another until at last they made a pretty good taut rope. Just to be fair, I suggested we draw straws to see who would climb down. It would prevent any further arguments, I said. As luck would have it, I drew the short straw. The others made sure the makeshift bungee cords were around my waist, then used one of the larger pylons in the office to act as a base point for me to rappel off. I looked towards the precipitous gap between me and the lower floor, and I felt dizzy, realizing I wasn't quite ready to do this. It would mean certain death if I had miscalculated. But I couldn't hesitate now. I closed my eyes as I leaned over the edge, then made the first leap of faith. My feet hit the glass window hard, and I told myself that it would only be perhaps 10 to 15 feet to reach the next floor. It'd be like walking across a room. I thought as I slid down and felt the sharp winds hit me. I reached the next floor, I pressed my body against the window, and I started to tap on it in the hopes to get someone's attention. The floor was dark. I shouldn't have been surprised if it hadn't been for this office party. I would have been off today too. Most people were. It suddenly occurred to me that there might not be anyone in the building besides us. I shouted to the group above to send something down that I could use to break the window. A gust of air hit me again, and I nearly lost my footing as they offered me a small desktop computer. "Hurry! The Secret Santa just came back on the screen. I think they'll realize you're gone," one man shouted to me. Carefully, I smashed the computer against the window, just enough to shatter it and give me an opportunity to get through the hole. Once I was in, I released the Ethernet cable and fell onto the floor. As I stood there in the darkness, I felt an unease take over my body. This floor wasn't abandoned, I realized as the automatic lights detected my movement. The floor was littered with employees that had been asphyxiated somehow, all dead from some toxin released in the air. At least 20 people dead, I discovered. And as the lights came on, I walked across the room and I realized that this also was likely the Secret Santa's control room. A bunch of monitors set up in the center, monitoring different floors where others were trapped, controlling everything to prevent anyone from escaping. So, how come I had made it this far? Just as the thought crossed my mind, I turned and I saw a bearded costume Santa slam me in the face with a bag of toys. And I blacked out. When I woke up, I was tied to a chair by candy cane rope, dressed as an elf. I immediately felt violated as I tried to squirm out of the bonds, and I heard the costume killer laugh from across the room. "Finally up, are you? Well, good. I wanted to wake you up to see the end results of this Merry Christmas." I suddenly realized that they had planned this to take place right before the holiday on purpose. When most people were out with their families. And they soon explained why. None of you have any decency in your heart, no spirit of Christmas. You waste your time here in this office while it sucks the joy away, and you've forgotten the true meaning of the holiday. Even this close, I couldn't make out for sure who the disguised killer was, but I couldn't deny that they were wrong. This company had truly destroyed any chance I had of enjoying a Christmas with my family. But that doesn't make what you're doing right, I argued. They pointed towards the monitors and made their point abundantly clear as they got on the intercom. It's time for our last holiday season to come to an end. All of you will find a nearby desk drawer where Santa delivered your gifts to. Use them to get out once and for all. I watched on the large monitor as my coworkers did as instructed, all of them finding sharp objects including hatchets and knives to fight each other. Each one wrapped with a bow that had another coworker's name on it. Whoever is left standing in the next 10 minutes will get to go free. And if any of you refuse to cooperate, let's say it's going to be a very cold Christmas for you. Santa chuckled. The men and women looked at each other with desperation and terror. Either they killed one another, or the secret Santa would end it all. He made another bellow of jolly laughter as he kept the feed going and added, I'll let you watch the show. I have to go deliver toys elsewhere. I watched as a man ran towards the elevator and disappeared from sight. Then I desperately worked to break my bonds, watching as my coworkers turned on one another. Blood covering the carpeted floor. Several of the coworkers were already dead and the rest severely wounded. I managed to loosen my ropes just a minute before the timer ended, and I grabbed the intercom that the Secret Santa had used. Stop, please! The killer already left, you can stop! To my horror, though, they didn't listen. I watched until only 4 men were left in the carnage, and the power returned and another Christmas melody played. The killer had already made their way out. Now we were left with guilt and a bloody nightmare to clean up. Then to top it off, I watched as the videos were erased, evidence scrubbed of any audio announcements. The proof that Santa had ever been here was gone for good. Let's have a white, clean Christmas. The final message read across the screen in bright red and green as authorities rushed in and arrested the survivors. I was the only one that was allowed to walk out scot-free because I wasn't even supposed to be there. But I haven't been able to face work since. And I can't even sleep without hearing that awful, jolly laughter. The nightmare before Christmas is over, but the ghosts of this Christmas will haunt me forever. Hey there kids, it's me, MrCreepyPasta, and it's the end of today's video, or today's episode of the podcast, which means I want to tell you guys thank you so much for watching. And thank you for hitting like and subscribe and bell, and I think it's still subscribe on podcasts. One day I'll look that up. If you guys are listening on your phone, like I think the statistics say like 90% of you are, then on your phone you can also listen on another place. It's an app called Chilling. The Chilling app allows you to listen to stories from me that you can't get here, as well as stories from a whole group of other narrators. A lot of them you've heard before, some of them you've even heard here, like Autumn Ivy. Plus, it allows you to control the background music and background ambiance, which I think is probably one of the coolest features on there. Check out Chilling on Android and iOS now. I want to give a very big thank you to everybody on Patreon, especially Jordan Alexander Sanchez, Stephanie Butler, Brian Arce, Bobby Karman, Tristain Pelton, Chance Burnett, Diana Kraus, Crazy Kid, Mr. Marcus Blitz, Ika Limchok, Dirt Diver 030, Robert Schonkwiller, USMC, Matt Bach, Jables Raz, Masked Note, Joshua Mullen, Dan Pham, Matthew McNeese, Ben Spates, Jeremy H., Raltizal, Fikamal, Nana, The Morgan, Nick Weaver, MeltedLake, Tali Sue, Skymara Ravenswood, William King, Reaper 61167, Darth Miver, Micah Ortiz, Satanic Aries, aisodoehtraed, Nessie, Ronny Hansen, Parafa Panda, Bardohawk 764, Lambda M98, Harley, Billy Morrow, Sashi Suzaku, at Grizzly Olsen Pro, My Body Sounds Like Rice Krispies, Jay, Miss Exandra, Suji Campbell, Stricken, Azarine Fox, Fried Chicken 12, Freddy Krueger, Happy Birthday Jason Willis, Infernal One, Lisa Cottrell, Caspian, Hades Nephew, Tater Chip, Acid System, Prozac and Pancake Appreciation Society, Cryptic Nightmares, Kiri the Sloth, Tommy Green, Fester's Lampshade, Sky Harbor, Nico Kyle, Rafael Rodriguez, The Ginger Bros, Aaron Stormcrow, Daniel Polson, Trey Smiles, and Corey Kenshin. Like I said, I cannot thank you guys enough for being a part of this, and that goes to everybody down there in the description, and everybody who even can just support for $1. Thank you guys, thank you guys, thank you guys. I hope you all have a wonderful holiday season, and sweet dreams.